Live with Dorothy Moon. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you doing?
It's been wonderful. It's
Uh-huh.
been nice catching up and talking with you for a few minutes.
It
We've been
is.
out here. She just took the stage, was talking a little bit about what's going on in the Idaho GOP.
A
And there
lot.
were a couple things that stuck out in my mind. One of those is the issue with the Idaho presidential primary
Mhm.
that is no longer going to happen.
Correct. And if you notice when I said how many in the audience show a raise of hands, how many of you know we don't have a presidential primary next in 2024? There's not one in March, and there's not one in May. So we had one in March. That's when everybody expected to go vote for their candidate, and apparently the Secretary of State decided that it would be in Idaho's best interest to move it to May. And what happened is in that bill, the wording was left out. So because of an error, we no longer have a March primary or a May presidential primary. Your Idaho Republican Party, we're working hard to make sure that you do get your voice heard in regard to your presidential choice. We will be looking at this June 24th at our summer meeting. That's where 229 members of our state central committee will get together, and we will decide between two options. One will be a caucus, and that is where you go into a certain location within your county or your legislative district, and you go in and vote. And if they have some of the candidates or representatives for those campaigns, they will have them come and speak prior to you being allowed to vote. But you will literally just vote on one issue, who you want as your choice for presidential candidate. Right now, there's a whole boatload of them. We have President Trump, who's of course announced. Governor DeSantis from Florida has announced. Chris Christie just announced, I think, yesterday. Tim Scott's announced. Nikki Haley came in pretty early. I think there's quite a few that I'm missing.
Something I can't remember.
Yes.
There's so many of them
Yeah,
anymore.
there's a lot of them.
Which is good.
It is good.
I think it's great that way.
Yep.
You know, this is the American system working,
and
we have a lot of people running for president. It's kind of nice,
Mhm.
but it would be very nice if Idaho could have a voice in some kind of a primary.
Right.
It's unfortunate that happened. But.
Well, it is unfortunate it happened. And I think what's really sad about it is that some folks within the executive committee and some in the Republican Party, they want us to have the primary in May. But the problem with having it in May is by the time you get to the middle of March, a lot of candidates have already dropped out because they already know who the candidate is probably going to prevail. So by the time you get to May, we're just going through the motions.
Right.
There's nothing significant about being one of the last states to weigh in on who our presidential candidate should be. However, the date that we're looking at is March 2nd, which is actually 2 weeks earlier. So with a caucus or a convention, we can set a date earlier. Now, one thing that the candidates like is winner take all. So one thing with the Republican National Committee, they set the rules. And on the 15th of March, that's the cutoff date. Anybody after the 15th of March, it's winner take all. So if somebody got 40% out of a boatload of candidates, they take the whole state's 32 delegates. Now, if we want to have it before that. We want to be significant. We will be the fifth state, because there's four in February, the early states.
Do you know who those four are?
South Carolina, Georgia is now one. It took the place and that's on the Democrat side. Iowa, and we have Nevada. So Nevada's our western state.
Okay.
I would like to take Nevada's place someday, but that'll have to wait. But anyway, the best we can do is to be the fifth state. So after the four have their caucus or primary election, we will be the fifth state. I think there's 10 days before the last one in February to that Saturday in March. So what does that mean? That means that these candidates can come out and meet with all of you in your listening audience, should they be close enough, or if they want to take the time to get there. Of course, it'll be fast and furious. I mean, when these candidates are flying all around the country and trying to get in to meet with different states, the earlier, of course, the better with getting folks to come in. We have to be prepared to either meet them at a hangar or meet them at the Nampa Center, which is hard to get. So, I mean, these are going to be fast-moving dates, fast-moving venues. But I think we're up for it. We're up for the task. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what are the repercussions of that? How does that change going forward as far as not having that primary, that mistaken wording? Is that something that that our legislature is or not is showing an interest in fixing, or is that just going to kind of be this is the way it is?
Well,
Where's that sitting?
a great question. And see, there's a lot of things being tossed around right now, and one of them is the fact they could do a special session. I don't think the governor, and I don't think leadership, and I don't think the legislature wants to come in for this one issue of, let's stick it in May. Because I think they know that we're still going to move ahead with either the convention or caucus to be decided again, June 24th at our summer meeting. We will go ahead and get our plan ready. The issue now is timeliness, because on October 1st of this year, every state has to have their plan into the RNC. That means we can't wait around, are they going to have a special session, or are they going to wait till January to put that back into May, which was the original intent? Or would they actually put it back into March? If they put it back, but even if they moved it to March, Shane, if they put it in March, then what it would do is nothing. Because whatever the plan is that the RNC accepts from us on October 1st, we are locked in. Okay, so October 1, we're there. If we come around to January or February and they try to pass a bill to put that into May or back into March, we can't use it.
Doesn't matter.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. It's where it's at.
Yeah. So we also, grab my notes here. There's so many people talking. Another hot button issue you touched on a little bit was this wonderful idea of ranked choice voting. Talk about that a little bit. Where's that at? And how serious is this? I mean, are they really trying to get this done? Is this something that I've heard some buzz about it?
There's some buzz.
But how much are they really pushing for this, and how serious of an opportunity do they have to make that happen? And what do we need to do to put it in? Maybe even talk about the dangers of it, just so everybody understands why we don't want this.
Sure. The issue with ranked choice voting is that if any of you followed the Alaska election, Sarah Palin ran for Congress and she lost because of the fact that if there's 4 people running and this bottom one is knocked out, okay, because the majority vote, second, third, fourth, the fourth one goes off. When the fourth one goes off, then these 3 now take the folks that voted for the fourth person as their first choice. Their votes are now being disseminated among the other 3.
If I understand the process right, you don't just vote for the person you want.
Yep.
You vote for
a bunch of them. Yeah.
And then who you might like as a second and third, fourth, and so on.
Right.
And so this is a way to manipulate that system, because if these people down here don't get the number 1, then their number 2 vote automatically becomes who all the votes go to, correct?
Correct.
Am I understanding that right?
Right. And so the thing is that these people down here who have now been knocked out because their first choice didn't win, they get a second vote, because now their second choice is going to be applied to the top 3. And then whoever's in the third rung, then they're out. And this person here, who everybody really wanted, the number 1 person, who you would have thought would have won, they might have given it to the second person because they don't want this good conservative Republican to win.
Right.
So that's what the problem is. So as I just showed with my fingers, you can vote more than one man, one vote. And that's not fair. That's not the way it's supposed to work. But another question is, how would you audit that? How would you audit it when right now you have paper ballots that we can go back and look at, make sure they jive up with the software that they've used to tabulate? But how do you do that with ranked choice voting? You could never audit that type of voting system, ever. I mean, I just don't see how you could, especially if they go 2 or more rounds and you have multiple ballots and whose was whose and all of this. Another issue too with ranked choice voting. So let's say this is your guy, and you just put down one name, and you don't put down additional names for your second, third, and fourth choice. Your ballot is gone. It's pretty much gone. Yeah.
So you get completely disenfranchised because your guy didn't make it.
Right.
But yet it's almost like having a second vote.
Right.
But you did it at the beginning.
Yes.
But the people who only voted for one, they're just gone.
Yep. So what's going to happen is we passed a law. In fact, Glenita Siderveld down in Twin Falls, a good senator down there, she carried the bill through the Senate, and Dale Hawkins carried it through the House, and overwhelming majority, both chambers voted for it. So that was great. Got to the governor's desk, signed it. So now in law, we have prohibited ranked choice voting in the state. However, the problem is now that the Democrats see Idaho putting up these safeguards to protect our state, as to keep it conservative and keep liberalism away. They're saying, "Oh no, you're not getting away with that." In fact, a lot of states have really marveled at the fact that we got that through and into law. So, initiative is going to come forward. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how well it's written. And if it does come forward, then the initiative is something to be wary of. And all of your listeners need to be aware that if you're going into a store or a restaurant or a mall and you see people taking signatures to put something on the initiative ballot, what they're going to say is, don't you want free and fair elections? Don't you think we should have open primaries? Because they're going to try to tie the open primary to, they're going to tie the open primary to ranked choice voting. So that's very dangerous. So they're going to try to tease you with, oh, don't you want open primaries? You should never be able to vote. No, we don't want open primaries. This is our club.
Yeah.
This is our assembly. This is our association with who we want to associate with. And we don't want the Democrats coming in and telling us who our selection should be for a November election. So that's where we're at.
So imagine in an open primary, you've got a very popular, a good conservative option in the primaries that you want to get in, but this side over here, the Democrats know in Idaho that elections in Idaho are won in the primaries. Well, they just switch teams and they come over and make sure that this person, the most conservative, doesn't make it, giving it the more liberal option as the ones who then go into the general election. And that's what they're trying to make happen with this open primary, is they want to be able to come over and just vote without switching sides, because you are helping put systems in place to keep that from happening.
To keep it from happening. And we saw that happen in the last general election. There were 16,000 Democrats, or in the primary, in last year's primary, and 16,000 Democrats registered as Republicans.
Yep.
It impacted many races. So anyway, a lot of races and a lot of people are now doing other things, when I love being the chair of the Republican Party. So this is working out.
So I'm hitting you out of left field with a question, but it's an open one, so I'm not gonna, at least I'm not going to lead you. But what are there any other big hot button issues that are facing the GOP right now and the Republican Party that you think need to be put out there?
Well, in our meeting, there are a lot of rules and resolutions we'll be dealing with. So the resolutions are the issues that the Idaho GOP would like to see become law. So the resolution of prohibiting ranked choice voting was a resolution we passed in January 6th. So our resolution committee met, they passed it through to the general body, they voted on it, and so, nope, we don't want ranked choice voting. Let's get it over to some legislators. We found Glenita Zeiderveld, we found Dale Hodkins, they both carried it. And then the RNC came out and they also said the same thing. That was the third week of January when they were doing the reorganizational meeting, and they also put out a resolution to say no to ranked choice voting. So anyway, that's how it should work. So the resolutions we have coming forward, we have a lot of them. Coming forward, and we have a lot of structural issues within the Idaho GOP that we'll be dealing with. But I'm sure grocery sales tax exemption will be another one. I mean, that's been going on now, for 8 years? So I was a legislator for 6. Last year, they didn't tackle it. And every year, it seems like we've tried to give people relief. Nobody else pays grocery sales tax around us, so why are we? I mean, all these other states, people are traveling over there to go get their groceries. And if they're close to Ontario or close to Missoula, Montana, or they're going to go somewhere else. So that does hurt Idaho business. And $40 million in grocery sales tax, really? Give it back to the people.
Yeah.
Give it back to the people. The grocery and the inflation on groceries is just too much. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that'll be the other big issue. The other one issue is definitely school choice. Seems how the education committee did not really want to take up that issue. It's a very important issue. There's a lot of people who are looking at the Hillsdale college schools, their classic academies, and there's one up in Fruitland. If anybody gets an opportunity to go see that school, this school has 500 kids and 150 kids waiting in line to attend it. There's one, I believe, that's going to be going into Rupert. Rupert area has a group that's formulating to put in one of these classical academies. There's one in Cuna that's going in. There's one in Avonmore, north of Boise, on the way to Horseshoe Bend. They're looking to put one in, and also one up in Post Falls. So there's a lot of activity in making sure there's choices. And when you see this issue with this kid up north in Kellogg, can't graduate because he said boys are boys or girls are girls. I guess no one has taken the biology class in that building.
You know what's worse than it. So this is an extremely conservative area. My better half Rhonda used to live close up into that area, and she said, "I can't believe this is happening. Yeah, it's very conservative." But you have 3 teachers that were really offended by it. An art teacher, shocker, and nothing against art teachers, but they tend to be a little more on the left side. An English teacher. My mother was one, and she tended to be on the left side. And which, by the way, that English teacher also happens to be the wife of the sheriff.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I can't remember who the third one was. But
it's another teacher, and I don't know who they're
and they have a principal from California.
Right.
So, I mean, this is what's happening there. So, so this kid says that, and then you have a couple teachers who are offended by it, and then the kids stage a walkout.
Yes.
So they had, I think, 30, 40 kids that walked out, about 100 plus members from the community that was part of that walkout. And the bus driver, there was a bus driver that decided to come out and carry an American flag and show support on that bus driver's day off. That just got fired.
His own time.
And that is just appalling to me.
It is, I think, to a lot of folks. Well, it wasn't the next day 100 people showed up to protest.
Yeah,
there were 100 people the next day.
I've been caught up in this, so I've missed.
Right. Okay, well, I'm bringing me up to speed. So
so you can bring me up. You can bring me up.
There were 100 people the next day that came up and protested the decision of the principal and school board. But that's a First Amendment right issue, and if it was unbelievable or non-believable or whatever information, which it is fact in a biology class, girls are girls and boys are boys.
It makes a person wonder if someone had stood up and said in the same situation, just happened to stand up and say, there's 655 different genders.
Right.
If that person would be walking or not.
They'd be walking. Yep.
And that is the problem. Those are things that we need to add those protections in for students as well.
Right.
You can't be disruptive.
Right.
This was the seniors that are moving on.
Advising freshmen, I think.
They're just saying, hey, what advice do you have to give, and what would you want to say to your underclassmen that are coming up? And this kid had 12 years of school life, and they're going to take away that walk over one statement.
Very wrong. Well, we'll see how that plays out. I don't think it's over. Harmeet Dillon, she is now representing Kootenai County in a lawsuit of slander. Someone's charging some precinct committee people with slander, and Kootenai County just hired Harmeet Dillon. I don't think if she's over here in the state, maybe she'd take on another case. But she's a fantastic lawyer. She doesn't mess around. So
I'm gonna plug these guys right now. That's why this is so important, because these people provide that legal support. And so, again, back to this has kind of been my running joke. I feel like I'm on some kind of a PBS telethon, but it's wethepatriotsusa.org. Go over there and donate. You can do about $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you want to do, a one-time donation. Those monthly donations are really important to them because they can budget based on that. But that is why it's so important that we support organizations like this, that we support our conservative candidates like Dorothy Moon and Galanita and those folks, because they're the ones that are fighting for your rights and to keep you free to have your voice and to fight these types of issues. Unfortunately, there are some members of our GOP who would not be standing behind that so loudly, and we need people who are willing to speep up. So, Dorothy, anything else you want to say?
No, thank you. This is fun to see you again. I haven't seen you a long time. You're looking good.
It's been wonderful. So, I don't think you recognize me with all of this on this mop that I've got on my head.
No, that's all right.
This is my social experiment. We're going to see how this goes. But Dorothy, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.